Let's take a look at some more market news now. Asian stocks stumbled today after weaker crude oil prices took a toll on Wall Street. The euro maintained its big gain after enjoying a boost from robust German economic growth. Japan's Nikkei fell to a two-week low as investors took profits following a two-month rally that pushed up the market by about 20%. The Nikkei ended 1.6% lower. Hong Kong stocks followed other Asian markets lower, dragged down by resources and industrial firms, amid worries over China's economic growth after sluggish economic data. The Hang Seng Index fell by 1.0%. Mainland China's major stock indexes extended their losses, hurt by resources shares amid signs of a slowdown in industrial production. The Shanghai Composite Index dropped by 0.8%. US stock indexes fell yesterday as General Electric shares plunged for a second straight day, and a drop in crude oil prices hit energy stocks. Investors wondered if a massive overhaul of GE by new Chief Executive John Flannery will be enough to revive the industrial conglomerate. An International Energy Agency forecast that rising US crude output had a gloomy outlook for global demand growth. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 0.1%. The S&P 500 lost 0.2%. And the Nasdaq Composite Index dropped by almost 0.3%. Let's take a look at some other markets now. Marco Masirela joins me in studio now for more on the markets. Thanks so much for your time on
Pleasure.
SABC News. Big story of the day is Zimbabwe. Do you agree with the analysis that whatever is happening there, it's not going to affect the markets in Zimbabwe so much because there's not a lot of liquidity, but here in South Africa, we may feel the effects more perhaps than Zimbabwe?
Yes, definitely. But now with Zimbabwe, we have to realize that as much as there's no liquidity, Bitcoin, that side is almost 10% up because they started running out of hard currency. But yes, back home here, I think, given that Zimbabwe, they're number one when it comes to our 5 top trading African countries, they're very important to us. We've got almost 120 South African companies doing business there. And we're talking companies involved in mining, aviation, tourism, construction, retail, you name it. So they're very important to us. Just to put it in perspective, last year alone, we traded with them with almost 29 billion. We've done even far much better than China. So whoever is trading with Zimbabwe, South Africa is number one. So you compare our trade with them compared to China, I think China is just doing, a third of what we're doing with Zimbabwe. So it's a very important market for us.
Let's come to South Africa now. South Africa's Treasury sold a record amount of debt at their weekly auction. What does this mean, especially on the back of people talking about, people won't want to invest in South Africa because of the current political instability and many things that are taking place?
I think it has to be seen in a context that as much as we managed to sell more, but that was at a very high yield. So as South Africa, we continue to give the best yields, just like the likes of Turkey and Brazil. So investors at the end of the day, they're interested in returns. So it was, I think, on the one that expires in 20 years' time, we paid almost 75 basis points more.
Okay. We are getting downgraded, let me not preempt this. Rating agencies, S&P and Fitch, are going to, on the 24th of November, talk to us about our credit rating as a country. Do you think that these high sales of the debt were affected in any way by that imminent announcement?
By all means, people had to take cover. And the thing is, you have to tell me as an investor that if I'm taking that risk, what am I getting in return? Hence, I'll ask for a higher return.
The rand sitting at 14.40 this morning, weakening in the beginning of the week on announcements of the resignation of Treasury DDG Michael Sachs and also that Fees Commission report coming out. The rand strengthening a little bit on the weakness of the dollar. How much has this helped it recover, and has it now gotten rid of that dip, that 1% dip that we saw in the beginning of the week?
You know, I think we just improved from the Monday lows, you know, when the announcement was made. I think we were as low as 14.57 or so, you know. So for us to trade around 14.40, the markets are just more looking in what's going to happen with the inflation numbers coming out of the US. So we'll just be driven for now by what is happening with the US, because now the US have to release their inflation numbers, also their retail sales. And yes, like you said, come next week as well, people, they're kind of half-baked that we will be downgraded by Moody and S&P. So it's not yet fully priced into the rand. And if that has to happen, unfortunately, we are talking at least anything not less than 150 billion, you know, that have to leave the country merely because their mandates won't be allowing them to invest into something which is rated junk.
What does that mean for us as South Africans, normal consumers, people who are not involved in the financial sector, that 150 billion rand will go out if we get downgraded? How does it affect us in a day-to-day?
Your rent will weaken, and we know that as South Africa, we're a net importing country, so it means that prices will go up, and then that's inflationary in its sense, and we know the Reserve Bank, they've got a target of 3 to 6, so the minute inflation starts getting out of control, or it starts threatening, you know, that will get out of control, then we might as well forget about the hope of the Reserve Bank decreasing interest rates. So, but in a long term, if the rand continues to weaken that much, they might even increase interest rates. And the minister just said it, they've got a shortfall of almost 50 billion, meaning we have to go out there and borrow money. So we'll have to go out and borrow money at high costs.
You spoke about inflation and the effect on the rand. Let's go back to Zimbabwe now. Hyperinflation has damaged the Zimbabwean dollar. Do these events of yesterday and today, how much more are they going to impact on the Zimbabwean dollar? And if there is something like our correspondent was saying there, like civil leadership coming in, will that see the Zimbabwean dollar starting to improve and their currency having a little bit more stability? In
my opinion, I think this is positive for Zimbabwe because now, and also for South Africans, because they're going to get an opportunity to start rebuilding themselves. We know that starting with large deposit of platinum, we know that people who've been waiting on the sidelines to have an opportunity to start getting involved in Zimbabwe, only if they get the rule of law into place, only if they get away with this whole thing of political uncertainty, and then making sure that their banking system is up to scratch. So I guess this is, in hindsight, very positive for the Zimbabwean economy, and then it will also have some spillovers to South Africa as well.
Makwe Masidela, thanks so much for your time on SABC News.